You end up getting all this fame while you're in college, and then what happens?
Well, I made this song that people kind of seem to really like, and that was a song cooler than me.
Yep.
If I could write you a song to make you fall in love, I would already have you up under my arm. I put this song out and people love it, and I started to get a lot of attention from other people.
Yeah.
And I was really not used to that. I was used to being in that basement. But then I put my second single out, and I put my third single out, and so my career started to fizzle. People called me a one-hit wonder at that time. That was really difficult for me. That was a pain point, but it was a gift from God, to fail.
Mike Posner is a singer, songwriter, and record producer. He became famous with his hit song Cooler Than Me in 2010. Posner has created several popular songs, including the Grammy-nominated I Took a Pill in Ibiza. He has also worked as a songwriter and producer for other artists like Justin Bieber and Maroon 5.
Mike Posner, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
Dude, so I told you this on the phone, but I've been listening to your music since like 2009, like from your first mixtape into just following your career. And like, so it's been crazy to see everything you've just put out the last decade. Yeah. So I'm excited to be here, dude.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I guess I'm having you also since you're
we're in your crib.
But thanks for having me on the show, man. And I'm excited to get to know you more. And
yeah. So, dude, I mean, there's so many places to start, but it seems like you're just at a whole new place in your life. I've been watching some of your recent podcasts talking about how, you got famous for, taking a pill in Ibiza and like all these other songs. And then now you're promoting just like this whole new type of fulfillment and happiness. Like what's that journey been like for you?
Painful, but so worth it and incredibly fulfilling. I basically had a life that was just all about me. My barometer of success really went from like 0 to Justin Timberlake. I was like trying to just get more fame. My whole life was just about getting more famous and being more relevant and me. And to go from that to my life now it's amazing. It's a privilege to get to reflect on it, because I think you and I are probably similar. We're always moving forward and present, but when you have those moments to zoom out and go, man, from the last 10 years to now, it's nothing but pride.
Yeah. What would you have thought 10 years ago? Like going after trying to just put out number ones to where you are today, where you're like, hey, you know what? That's not my priority anymore to necessarily just go and get more famous every day. But to me, it just seems like from the outside looking in, you're just all about like mindset and success and just finding fulfillment in all these other aspects of life.
Yeah, I love fulfillment. I'm gonna answer your question, but of all the words you just said, that one jumps out at me, because I think fulfillment comes from presence plus motivation. So we have to have a vision of the future that excites us. We have to be working towards something. All of us, you, me, all humans, we need something in the future that says, hey, I got that to look forward to. At the same time, we have to be able to be present in this moment and grateful for what's already here. And so if we can combine those two, presence plus inspiration or motivation, that equals fulfillment.
What do you think about the past? How do you, I guess, put the past into that equation? Because how do you be grateful or not resent or, all those things?
Yeah, well, the past is there to learn from. And it can provide also inspiration. So the past, right? There's things in our past that we sometimes wish didn't happen, or they were painful, etc. And those things are there for us to learn from. Yeah. So we say, okay, I can make a different decision now, or I did it that way, and that turned out like this. So maybe I'll try this, and maybe it'll give me something else. Maybe not. Maybe I need to try a third thing. Whatever. At the same time, that's what you do at painful past moments. But for, past accomplishments,
Yeah.
this is another pitfall, that you can fall into on the spiritual path. So, especially if you've had success, right? You've had a lot of success. We had success. So you have these big moments. Like I walked across America and then I climbed Mount Everest afterwards. And the wrong way to use those past moments is to go, I did it. and now it's an excuse to be sloppy in the present, right? So that's an inefficient way to use the past. An efficient way to use past accomplishments is to go, I did that before. What else can I do? Or this challenge hit me right now. I overcame that thing. I'm definitely going to crush this.
Yeah. Like, what do you think when you're like, dude, I climbed Mount Everest. Like, what is this like little thing I'm dealing with right now that's giving me all this stress?
Well, I got to remember it.
Yeah.
I got to do exactly what I'm saying because it doesn't happen automatically. The mind is there to scan for problems. It's not there to make you happy, right? So the mind, it's a survival mechanism, right? So I go through my day. I remember last year I found out there was mold in my house and I was pissed off, I'm like,
Been living like this?
yeah, I'm like, I'm working out and I'm doing the ice baths, I do everything healthy. And then I'm still like living in poison, and I was upset. And then I zoomed out and I said, dude, you climbed Mount Everest. Mold is not going to stop you.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to do some things to cleanse your body. You need to clean up your environment, maybe move. There's some action you got to take. But like,
it's not that big of a deal.
This is not going to stop you.
Yeah.
Look what so, but I have to stop and sometimes pull those events from the past and go, dude, if I did that, I can do this.
Yeah.
And we all have those things in the past that we look back on, we go, dude, I pulled that off. So I can do this as well.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about some of your stuff in the past because, I mean, so many people who are our age, I'm 35. It's like, they probably saw you, with all your songs back in like the early 2010s and everything else. And, number one songs after number one songs and everything else. What was it like having that much success so young?
At first, it was completely overwhelming. Because I was always kind of a shy and depressed kid. And I just, in high school, would spend hours and hours we had a basement in Detroit. And I was just down there all the time. I had this keyboard just making beats and writing music. My parents, they worried about me. They thought, they weren't sure I could relate to other people because they said he was just always down there.
Just like by yourself?
By myself, down there, making music. And as a result, I started to get better at making music. And it's not like it was overnight. I started going in that basement when I was 8 years old. Fast forward to when I was 20. Well, I made this song that people kind of seemed to really like. And that was a song Cooler Than Me.
Yep.
If I could write you a song to make you fall in love, I would already have you up under my arm. And so I put this song out and people love it. And it starts to catch on. And I started to get a lot of attention from other people.
Yeah.
And I was really not used to that. I was used to being in that basement alone.
I remember hearing that in college before it like went on the radio like as a different version because it was like
the version with Big Sean you heard.
It was like slower, like I don't know if you'd call it acoustic, but it was like it wasn't like club, the club version or whatever. Yeah.
So it was overwhelming for me, man. Then now my phone's ringing off the hook and like
you're just in college, just popping off.
Yeah, but I was never a social person. I had a lot of friends, but I didn't go out. I didn't really go to parties that much. And
you just were always working on music?
Yeah. Especially I always tell a story in college. I lived in the dorm room and it was loud in the dorm room. It's college kids. They're banging music, they're drinking. And so I could never record imagine like, we're recording a podcast now. Imagine trying to record and all that stuff's going on. You couldn't do it, right?
No.
So same thing. I had the microphone that said I couldn't record my songs in the dorms except from 11:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. All these kids would go out to the bars.
Oh.
Then I had, 4 hours of silence, and I could record my music, and I would take advantage of that. So I was doing that, and then my friends would come back. They'd be wasted and come in my room and kick them out.
That's all your stuff up.
Lock my door and stuff, to keep them out so I could just make my music.
So you're over here making music, and then it just takes off. And this is like pre-social media, like YouTube, and there's no TikTok. There's no there's just really Facebook at that time.
Yeah, it wasn't pre-social media, but it was this incarnation of social media.
Yeah, where songs just can go viral, from one dance or whatever. And it's like you end up getting all this fame while you're in college. And then what happens?
Well, I finished college and I continued to get more fame. It was like at first I was just famous on campuses. I go from campus to campus playing college shows, and then I finished school. I moved to LA, and my music just kept getting bigger. And eventually, I think this is where you're asking. I was going around the world playing shows, taking my shirt off at the shows, getting paid a lot of money. But then I put my second single out. It was called Please Don't Go. After Cooler Than Me, it didn't quite chart as high. And so even though in hindsight it was a successful song, a platinum song, it was considered a failure by my team and the record label. And I put my third single out, a song called Bow Chicka Wow Wow, Lil Wayne. And it followed the same trend. It was even still a platinum song, but even less successful than Please Don't Go. And so my career started to fizzle.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where my career was really just considered over by everyone in the music industry. I was respected as a songwriter, so artists would call me to go in the studio and help them write their songs. But as a solo artist, my career was really considered over, and people called me a one-hit wonder at that time, and that was really difficult for me. And it was just hard because I was 23, 24 years old. I had ridden this rocket ship to fame, and my identity was totally wrapped up in being famous and popular. And, we talked about me being shy, but in those years of, maybe it's 2 to 4 years of me being the guy.
Yeah.
I got really used to being the guy.
Yeah.
And I really drank my own, Kool-Aid or my own potion. And it was very difficult for me to go from shy to famous, getting a lot of attention, to then not getting as much attention and being viewed as last year's pop star. Nobody wants to hang out with last year's pop star.
They're already
that's
on
what I was.
They're on to the next thing.
It was hard. So you asked me at the beginning how the journey was. It's hard. I said painful. That was a pain point.
Yeah.
But it was a gift from God, to fail.
Yeah. So you go through your first true big failure, right? And you start writing songs for all these other people. What was that like, taking kind of a back seat and maybe not getting the credit for all these songs?
That was in some ways validating, because it was, a lot of the songs were, sometimes songs I wrote for myself, but because my record label wasn't putting my music out at the time, and I was just kind of stuck in a no man's land, record label purgatory. It was validating to see those songs go up the charts and go, hey, I still got,
I still got it.
Yeah, these are good
somebody
songs.
needs to give me another chance.
Yeah, I wrote these, I'm watching,
what were some of the songs so people know?
Most notably, Sugar for Maroon 5 and Boyfriend for Justin Bieber. There's a lot more, but those were the most popular ones.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking like, like I can do this. And I start visualizing. And that's when the spiritual part of my life started. It's like, I believe in something more than me. And I started to visualize, and I had this notebook, and I would just write, I, Mike Posner, will win the Grammy for Song of the Year. I, Mike Posner, will win the Grammy for Song of the Year. And I would write that 15 times every day. And I'd go on walks, and I'd say that to myself. And I had to change the way I saw myself from how everyone else saw me. Because everyone else saw me as this washed up artist.
Yeah.
And I just no, I'm about to have a second act. I'm about to have another. I'm just getting started. It's just the beginning for me.
Yeah.
And I started brainwashing myself in a good way. And it took a while, but after a few years of doing that and writing, and I visualized all the steps that had to happen for me to go from one hit wonder to winning the Grammy for Song of the Year. And he's like, I need to get off this record label. I need to hire a new manager. I need to get on Jimmy Fallon. I need to crush it on Jimmy Fallon. And it's like one after the other. And I just started doing them, take action. My lawyer said, it took a long time, but months. I got off the record label. I hired a new manager. I got on Jimmy Fallon. I crushed it on Jimmy Fallon. And I wrote this new song. I took a pill in Ibiza. And it was actually about all this pain. It was me telling the truth. And it shot up the charts. And this one morning I woke up and I opened my phone and it's like all these text messages. I got nominated for Song of the Year Grammy. Just like I wrote in the notebook. I didn't win it. Adele won it.
That's a tough.
Yeah,
she's
but all
tough
those
to
things
beat.
happened except for the last one. And I know I will win that Grammy,
Yeah.
So.
And you got a new song out right now, right?
Yes. Beautiful Day. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And is that going to be part of a whole new album? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I still make this archaic art form called albums because I put a lot of love into my albums in the past.
Yeah.
So my albums have always been experiences. And at the beginning, I say on the beginning of my albums, I go, this album is 42 minutes long or 38, however long that album is, I'll say it. It's 38 minutes long. It's best listened to, and I might say in the morning or at night.
Yeah.
And it's best listened to without any interruption.
Yeah.
Without no texting, no emails, no phone. And I'll say right on the album, if you don't have 42 minutes right now, kindly, I ask you turn this off and come back at a later time. And so these are really like guided meditations. And I've been doing my albums like that for 10 years. So my audience they love getting albums from me.
Yeah, I remember listening
as a whole, in the music industry, the album is kind of like is dwindling in significance.
People just want hits, just singles.
Yeah, the attention span is getting shorter. So if you look, it's actually a fun measurement of human beings' attention spans is the length of songs.
Yeah, they keep getting shorter.
They're getting shorter, yeah.
Yeah. These songs used to be like 4-5 minutes, and now they're in the 2s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I started 10, 15 years ago, if you did a song that was under 3 minutes, the record labels would say, hey, it's a little short. And now it's like if you did a song over 3 minutes, it's maybe too long.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the reason for releasing so many mixtapes? Was it just because your label wouldn't let you release, I don't even know what you would call it, but like full length albums? Because I remember listening to all your mixtapes.
Yeah.
In between, like, I forget which album it was that you're referring to. I remember like it has a blue cover for when you talk about this album should be listened to this way.
Oh, you keep going?
Keep going, yeah.
Keep going, yeah.
And I think that was after you wrote that during your walk.
Right before.
Yeah. So what was the reason for all the mixtapes?
Well, at the beginning, mixtapes were part of hip hop culture. So a mixtape was essentially a free album. And they were offerings. And they were important to me at the time because I was just getting started, and it was the era of 2009 where piracy was really big. iTunes hadn't taken hold yet. There were no digital service providers. So there was no Spotify, there's no Apple Music. So me, I was a college student at the time. We stole music. We'd go on BitTorrents or, Kazaa or LimeWire. No one paid for music.
Yeah.
So it was an offering. If you wanted to get your career started, you couldn't charge people for your music. So a mixtape was essentially a free album.
Yeah.
And it also would often involve, there's no paperwork on it. So you could do a remix of somebody else's song. You just put it out. You're not like getting lawyers to clear it because you're not getting paid. So you're just giving it. And that's how you would get started.
Yeah.
And it was also a way to build heat, so even established artists like Lil Wayne at the time would do a bunch of mixtapes, free music.
Yeah.
And
like no ceilings and
it would build excitement to when he did his main album. So that was a path that I took. And now there's no real reason to do that.
Just drop it on Spotify.
Yeah, now if I keep going, I call it a mixtape. But there's more the mind state from which I made it in. Because when I make an album, sometimes I spend 2 years on an album. Sometimes I write 100 songs for an album and I pick 10, and it's just like this really thoughtful, deep piece of work. And when I make a mixtape like the one you alluded to, Keep Going, it's like I make 20 songs, I put 20 songs, I put them out. And I don't overthink it.
Yeah.
So it's a different process for me. That's why I called that project. I could have called that project an album, but it's a different process for me.
Right. No, I love it. It's just like we tell people this with content all the time. You get business guys who are like, dude, should I make content? We're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, I made 10 videos. I'm going to pick one. We're like, no, just put them all out. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Put them
Get
all
feedback.
Out. Yeah. I was talking to an artist yesterday because that's been one of my, I would say, fatal flaws as an artist, in that perhaps I'm at times too, the barrier, the requirements I put on a song to actually come out are very high.
Mm-hmm.
So I never thought of songs like social media posts. And as a result, I look back on my career, my discography, I think I have 12 albums now. And it's like, I'm proud of pretty much every one of them. Mm-hmm. There's a few clunkers in there. I'm like, yeah, that song kind of sucks, dude. Nah, I look back on that one, I'm like, But largely, I'm proud of everything I, put out.
Yeah.
But this is the rub. How often, this happened last week, I'm on my phone, I'm looking, I stumble upon this song. I go, oh, I forgot I made this. Let me play it. Oh my God, this is so good.
I forgot I made this.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So as a result for having that higher hit rate, I have some good stuff that I wish I put out that I didn't.
So you could save it, or?
No, I put it out because, at the time I was overthinking it, or it didn't fit on an album, and because you're making these thought out pieces. Sometimes you take a great song, but it doesn't fit on this project.
Got it.
In this guided meditation, this 42-minute journey, sometimes you got a song. It could be a hit song. You make a really hard decision. I'm going to take that song off.
Got it.
Because it doesn't serve the larger project.
Got it.
Then sometimes I look and I go, gosh, some fucking great songs I got here, man, that I never shared.
So you ever going to release them all? Or?
Yeah, I do. I do release them, but then it's a different energy, from when you put a song out that you wrote 6 years ago than when the one you wrote 6 weeks ago.
Right.
Because it's like it's a retrospective as opposed to this current offering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ever encounter that or something like that?
I started, my version of, but I wish I could sing and make music, but I can't. So I just do podcasts and just talk to people. But I'll look at content I did 5 years ago and I'll be like, same thing. I'm like, dude, that was actually I can't believe I did that. I didn't know I could do that. And then there's other ones I'm like, man, that was so bad. I can't believe, why did we publish
But
that?
they're all out. Oh,
Yeah.
you have some you wish you didn't put out?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, well, especially too, when you're in the world of like giving people advice and then you're wrong. And then you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't right. And then you're like, yeah, I learned from that mistake. I don't know what I was thinking back then.
Wow.
And then you have to, but that's part of business and life. Like you got to like have a conviction that causes you to take action. And then you're going to find out whether it was right. And then you adjust. It's like, that wasn't right.
Yeah.
Let's do this. But it's just hard when you're also in the world of people listen to your advice, not just you're just making decisions only for yourself.
What's one piece of advice you gave that you wish you could suck back in, or that you later revised?
So many, dude.
Come on, I want to know your greatest hit.
My greatest hit? You mean the greatest failure?
Yeah.
Just thinking back at it, I think for me, I've always been a guy who's like, hey, let's just try everything and anything that seems like a great opportunity. So, I'll hear about a business idea over here that's working really great for my friend. And so I'll be like, bro, I could do that. And then I'll start another one and another one. And then like you have success with them. And then you all of a sudden, like it was good when it started. And then you look up and you got like 12 things going on. And you're like, oh man, this is a lot to manage now. Like starting it was fine, but now it's like here. And you started other things too. Like when you started the one thing by itself, it was good. And then you don't realize as you keep starting more and more things that it keeps getting harder and harder to maintain and to think. And then, as you try to use like your creative, and I'd be curious to hear about your creative process, but like when I look at a business, I think about all the problems to solve, and it takes all my creative energy to solve those problems. But then if you imagine you had 12 different albums you were working on,
Right. At the same time.
Yeah, and they're just always going, right? Because your album,
unlimited, I think 42 minutes, 42 years.
Yeah. Because your album is just, you make it once and you're done. And, and go sing and do concerts and promote it. But like, it's done. There's a finite finish to it. But with businesses, it's not done ever. You start it and then it's either going to be done because you just don't want to do it anymore and you quit, or you sell it, or you shut it down. Like it's just always ongoing.
Yeah. Well, I think the analogy in that case would the album would not be the business. The album would be a product.
Right.
And the business would be your
being
career.
an artist. Yeah. And so, it's I would say the biggest mistake I made was like maybe telling people like, hey, like, you can definitely do multiple things and have multiple streams of income and all this stuff. And, it's true. Like people do get to that point, but it's only after they've already established one thing. It's like you couldn't do any of the things you've done after your music career unless you had a great music career first. But so many people try to start a music career, build a brand on social media, write songs for other people, write a book.
Yeah. You got to do something great.
Yeah.
You got to do something great.
And I think that I made the mistake of not going deep enough on something I was already great at and not becoming like world class. And instead saying, hey, I'm great at this. Let's be great at something else. And then let's be great at something else. But like truly like where you want to be is world class.
Yeah.
Like you can't be a Grammy winner if you don't really devote everything like to music.
On that basement.
Yeah. Being in the basement, just grinding it out.
Bro, I'm pretty sure there was mold in that basement too.
Oh yeah.
My secret sauce.
You've had mold forever. I'm pretty sure there's mold in here.
Nah, there's not. I checked for sure before I moved here.
You got an inspection on everything.
Big time, dude.
That's funny. So what sparked you to do hard things? You decided to walk America. I remember, like I said, dude, I've been following your career for a long time. And I remember you were like, you had this big old beard and just like walking America like a wild man.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like what sparked that?
More pain. We kind of got my story to I took a pill in Ibiza.
Yeah.
But while this is kind of the second wave in my career. While that was irrigating eardrums all over the world, it all just fell apart. My dad got sick. My dad died. My friend Avicii killed himself. My friend Ronnie died. Mac Miller overdosed and died. And I just look at my life like this can't be it. You know, it's kind of like I had this rise to fame, it fell apart. Then I brainwashed myself, I'm gonna get more fame. I got it. And it falls apart again. And it's like, is this it? I was 30 years old. I'm like still playing the game of music industry and trying to have successful songs. And I just remember looking in the mirror thinking, this can't be my life, man. You know, it looks so beautiful from the outside, but it's just, something's off.
It's a roller coaster.
And there's something more inside of me. I don't know what it is, but I gotta find out. And I know I'm not gonna find out in this West Hollywood guest house, you know, bopping in and out of recording studios with no windows, trying to write the next hit song. Like there's more inside my soul than this 2.4 square mile West Hollywood can hold. I gotta get out. I gotta do something else. I gotta change, or else I'm gonna die. And I'm not gonna die the same way that my dad and Avicii and Ronnie and Mac died, but I'm gonna die a much sadder death, which is I'm gonna live a life that wasn't as big as it was supposed to be. It didn't follow the path it was supposed to follow. It followed the path that was laid out by the record label or the manager. And it was a horribly scary decision to go to these agents and these. So I'm not going to go on tour this year. Why? I'm going to walk across America. What? You know, and then to start doubting yourself, have them tell you that's a horrible idea. You're going to ruin your career. And then going, am I? Like, what am I doing? Is this right? Having their thoughts start cloud over your thoughts. Having their voice in your head start speaking and you can't really hear God's voice as clear anymore. And am I doing the right thing? And I always say, step one is take one step. So I had all that fear, I had all that doubt, all that uncertainty. I still went. I drove across the country. Strategically, I wanted to start walking on the East Coast. The weather works out that way with the mountain ranges. And I stood off the coast of New Jersey. The Atlantic Ocean is crashing on my back. And I took a step. And all those fears, those uncertainties, those doubts about what might happen if I chose to do this, they disappeared because I was doing it. And that began the next chapter of my life, that step, that one step.
And how long did it take to get across?
Well, it took 6 months and 3 days to get across. But you also got to know while you're doing that, you don't know how long it's going to take. And you also don't know if you can do it.
Yeah. So,
excuse me. Mentally, I had 2 years blocked out. You know, it's not like on the 6 month and 4th day, I got dinner plans with somebody. It's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to die trying to do this.
Yeah.
You know, like I can tell you're a healthy guy.
Yeah.
I'm a healthy guy. We prioritize our health. We train. We give it good food, right? But here in this instance, this mattered more than my health. I didn't sleep a full night, I didn't sleep 8 hours, any of those nights in the 6 months and 3 days. My body gave me a very clear message after I walked a month or 2 months, and I'm 1,000 miles in, my body would speak to me very clearly every day. Stop. You're hurting me. This is not good for you. But this mattered more than my body. You ever have your body tell you to stop and your soul tell you just as clearly, keep going?
Mm-hmm.
That was every day. Every day. I wake up and the alarm goes off. I never hit snooze once. Not because I'm strong, because I know I'm weak. If I hit snooze once, it starts a chain reaction of failure. Now, instead of walking 24 miles today, I'm walking 21. The next day, instead of 21, I'm walking 16. And before I know it, I'm at home going, why'd I quit?
Yeah.
And so every day I wake up, I never hit snooze. And my body goes, this is wrong. And I have to, like weeds in a jungle. I'm like a guy in lost. Like I got what's that knife called?
Machete.
I got a machete in the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And the vines all around me are these thoughts. They're the messages from my body. They're the thoughts of other people. They're my own insecurities going, what are you doing? You're not going to walk right after this. You're going to cause permanent damage. And every day I'm cutting down those weeds to try and let God's voice get clear again. The one voice is saying, keep going. That was that 6 months and 3 days. The whole time.
What was the biggest takeaway from all of it?
There's so many, it's a long project,
Yeah.
It's like
Sum up 6 months in
like,
one sentence.
Well, no, I mean, look, like people do podcast episodes about a weekend ayahuasca journey or and this was 6. So if you look back on your past 6 months, there's a lot of lessons in there.
Yeah.
Just from normal life, living.
Yeah.
So I'm having all the normal lessons plus this on top of it. But one big takeaway, you really can become a version of yourself that you're not only proud of, but in awe of. Like this started off a crazy idea. And it's like, who would do that? And then it's like, well, what if I could do that? And then it's like, if I did that, how would I feel about myself? And to go from having these mental exercises to then going, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
To have your real life, your first question today, is it go back 10 years?
Yeah.
Right. I never really answered that question because we got on a rip about fulfillment.
Yeah.
My life as a result of doing this project, not talking about it, not watching a podcast about it, not researching it, not thinking about it, not watching a documentary about doing it. I did it. I didn't watch a movie about somebody who walked across America and get his takeaway. I did it. I'm giving the takeaways. I'm not saying that out of pride, but this is this was the internal, or I'm not saying it to brag, but this is the internal metamorphosis that happened because you asked about my takeaways. And tying the loop of your first question, or tying the loop, my real life at 31, which is when I finished it, was bigger, more beautiful, more adventurous, more magical than my dreams were at 21. And that's something no one can take away. It's to go, Yeah, I've always been a dreamer. I've always been manifesting and thinking of what I want to create, and to say the life you have, the life you lived at 31 is bigger than what you even dreamed of. That was a takeaway, man.
I love it. You know what it got me thinking about was there was no one stopping you but you. You know, because if you look through kind of what you were sharing about your 20s, it's like the record label shelved you and there was nothing you could really do about it. You're in a contract, you got to get out of it, figure it out. And I remember too, you know, I was sharing with you earlier, you know, I was playing pro baseball and same deal. Like you're signed to a team. You can't really control if they put you in the lineup that day. You can't control, you know, if they trade you, release you, it's really out of your control. I mean, when you get an opportunity, that's all you can do is just make the most of it. But what I've really liked about, you know, my 30s, like you, is that I have freedom to be more in control. You know, I'm never fully in control, but it's like, you know, if I want to start a business, I can start a business. I want to do a podcast, I can do a podcast. No one's stopping me but me. And when I look at like how you describe walking America, it's like, yeah, nobody was the regulator. Like, yeah, they told you it's a bad idea, but at the end of the day, nobody could stop you. It was just whether or not you truly wanted to do it. And I think there's a different level of just fulfillment when you're making the choice about whatever you want to do and actually doing it and seeing it through.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So what led you to go to Everest after that?
Well, I had sort of shaky scaffolding. I finished the walk and I had discovered this new part of myself, a tougher part of myself that didn't care as much about what others thought about me, a part of myself that I thought was beautiful. Maybe I'm a little biased because it's a part of myself. You know? And I didn't want to go back. It was a crossroads for me. You know, it's either going to be the beginning of the rest of my life or that trip was going to be a wild 6 months. And I didn't want to go back in those little rooms in West Hollywood and be looking in the mirror going, this can't be my life again.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the most important part of the journey is what you do right after it ends. My whole life had been about doing this walk for that year. You know, not just when I started, but planning it. I mean, dude, it was a big thing, right? I finished the walk. I dive in the ocean. I thought I would feel like I finished something. I didn't. I feel like I was beginning something. And so I talked to you a little bit about how my body felt. And it was clear I needed to rest at the very least, maybe do more to make myself like not operate like the Tin Man, you know?
Yeah.
But I knew that next morning was pivotal. Am I going to go back or am I going to go forward? I called this man named Coach Marcelo, who runs a boxing gym. Right after I finished walking across America, I said, I need you to meet me at 4 a.m. tomorrow. It's 4 a.m., man. He goes, we open early. We open at 6, but what's going on, boxer? He goes, what's going on, boxer? I go, I just need you to meet me there. You know, I could do 4:30. All right, 4:30. 4 a.m. is when I got up on the walk. Every single day. Never hit snooze. I told you about that. The day after the walk, I set my alarm for 4 a.m. I got up again. I didn't keep walking miles, but I went to that boxing gym. And I hit heavy bags. I hit mitts. I cried. We played Metallica at very loud volumes. And that was me signaling to my body, my mind, and my soul. This walk is over, but we are not done. This is just the beginning. And so, yeah, within 2 weeks, I climbed my first mountain. And the next 18 months, like we talked about a 6-month journey. This was an 18-month journey. I climbed mountains. I found my coach, Dr. John. He said, train for climbing mountains by climbing mountains. That's what I did. Next year and a half, I climbed 71 mountains.
Whoa.
It was COVID, so I couldn't climb all the mountains I wanted, but I climbed in America. I climbed in Pakistan. I climbed in Ecuador. I climbed in Mexico. And then I went to Nepal. And then I climbed the tallest mountain in the world.
As you were doing this, I mean, obviously the walk had trained you to be a completely different person, and you just kept those habits for what seems to be just ever since, right? With that, I mean, there's been a lot of change in your life since those moments too. Like I see you talking more about faith now.
Probably more change after.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, probably more change after. Well, I finished Everest, so we go fast through that one. I finished Everest. And then after I went to the top, I fell to the bottom. I knew I needed to stop, because there was no break between the two. That was really like one big project, the walk and the climb.
Yeah.
So it's over 2 years. I'm just gunning.
Were you working at all, making any music?
I was making music, but music was consciously on the back burner.
Yeah.
So I was still putting albums out, but I wasn't touring. I wasn't doing shows.
Yeah.
Right. So I was still doing songs I really loved and sharing them, but no, like, I wasn't actively promoting my music career.
Right. Were you just living off royalties or?
Yeah. And I saved my money, and I wasn't living like, it's like
You're climbing mountains. You're not living some crazy life.
Yeah, dude, like walking across America is like, I'm not paying rent,
Where were you staying? Like an RV?
We had an RV that was so support. So I had one person that would go ahead of me. And when we say that, people get this image in their head like someone's next to me handing me a water. It wasn't like that. I'm on the sides of roads, like 70-mile-an-hour roads, almost getting hit every day. And the RV would go ahead of me, and I would catch up to it.
Got it.
And I'd meet Colin. And that was a hard job because they had to do everything. I had to walk, and they did everything else.
Yeah.
They got all the food. They found where we could sleep. We learned every time we cross the county, we have to call the police, or else the police are going to be called on me. So it was a hard job. It was so hard that it was always one person there, but it was two people that take turns.
Got it.
So Colin would come and Julian would rest, and then they'd flip. But we're asked about after Everest. It's like, I could have went right to the next thing and climbed the even harder mountain, but Everest was different. It's different. It's so freaking dangerous.
Yeah.
And I had a scare up there where both of those trips I almost died. Snake bite on the walk, and then avalanche on Everest. And nothing like a little death to put your life in perspective, So I knew, okay, I don't want to just mindlessly and unconsciously be in a loop of really dangerous adventures the rest of my life. It's like, in some ways, if I was trying to see how tough I was, like, I'm pretty tough, man. Pretty tough,
Yeah.
But toughness is not the only skill to develop. It was a skill I needed to develop because I was
You're soft.
I was soft for sure. I was soft when I was living in West Hollywood, and I had, you know, very moisturized hands playing the piano. Like I was soft. So that was why that's why my journey of personal growth featured these really hard physical tasks.
It was what you needed.
Yeah, like I want to jam with you on faith, you know, but someone told me once there's no teenagers in the Bible, right? There's children, there's boys, and then there's men.
Yeah.
Right? And in my tradition I grew up in, you have bar mitzvah when you're 13.
Mm-hmm.
You become a man.
Mm-hmm.
But the bar mitzvah is pretty watered down these days. You know, I had a bar mitzvah. It was like I gave a talk to my family. You know, it was a cool ceremony. It was a beautiful ceremony. But I didn't feel like a man after it. You know, and it's like you hear stories in those other cultures. You got to go kill a lion, and you don't get to come back unless you do it. You know, and so the bar mitzvah happens when you're 13, but I was 31 and I still felt like a boy. So that's why I gave myself a bar mitzvah at 31, right?
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
But toughness wasn't the only skill I needed to develop. And some things are harder than climbing Mount Everest. So I got down off the mountain and I struggled. What's next? What do I do now? And I felt really lonely. No family, you know, like no girlfriend or nothing. I realized, dude, this is one area of life. You know, personal, spiritual growth. Physical health is another area of life. Family is another area of life. Giving back is another area of life. Love and intimacy is a very important area of life. And that was the area that I had nothing in. Even though I'd climbed Everest, it's like I had nothing in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're really successful, this is what people do. They focus on the thing they're already good at. So if you're a great businessman, you start a podcast, and I'm talking about you, but just a person in general, because I don't think of you this way.
Yeah.
But so let's use a different example. You're a great artist. You may develop a theory, a philosophy about life that has art at the center of it. Mm-hmm. The most important thing in life is art. You give everything to the art. You work on the art all day long. You're alone. And you make great art here in the basement. You live the whole life in the basement. And by your own philosophy, you're knocking it out of the park. We focus on the things we're already good at. And then we create theories and life philosophies about how the other things don't matter. And I realized that's what I was doing. I was a great artist. I was becoming a great adventurer. I'd become a mountaineer. And I thought that the points would just magically carry over to intimacy, to my family life, to my spiritual, to giving back. You know, it doesn't work like that, you know? And so I had a spiritual awakening. It was, hey, dude, you got to figure out other parts of your life, namely, explicitly, love and intimacy. You need to put some time and energy into that, or you're just going to stagnate the rest of your life.
So what did you do with that?
Well, I slowly started to pull my head out of my own behind. And listen, man, I was really afraid of being in relationships, afraid. And I had this whole talk track that I'd tell people, hey, are you dating anybody? No, but if it happens, it happens. I don't know if I want to get married, this whole thing. And it was like, deep down, I really wanted to get married. Deep down, I really wanted to have a family. I had all these talk tracks about, I didn't. So first thing was getting over the fear. I was like, hey, I actually want to be with another human being. I started to create a vision of myself. We talked in the beginning, but you need to have a vision you're excited about, who had a family, who was happy. I stopped jacking off because my whole life, and I stopped having anonymous sex. I mean, I was an artist, as a public figure, so I could just hook up with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what am I doing? You know, it's like, I knew myself. It's like, if I do that, I'll never have a relationship. If I'm masturbating to porn, this kind of thing, like, I don't go on dates, you know. And so I had to stop giving my energy to things that were not serving me, and focus them in that area. And I'm an extreme guy, so I sort of realized, like, hey, I'm a really bad communicator in relationship. So I took communication courses. I read Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I even went on relationship retreats as a single guy because I wanted to get the skills they were teaching. Like, there's skills to being a good partner.
Yeah.
Communication is part of it. Presence is part of it. And I'm definitely not a master at any of these, but I go, hey, like, I can learn this stuff just like I learned everything. Like, I learned to be a mountaineer. So now I'm using the past in the right way.
Yeah.
This is the hard thing to describe in a social media post, because people always say, you walked across America, you climbed Everest, what's next? This is what was next. And I used the motivation from it, like we talked about at the beginning, how to use the past.
Yeah.
I go, if I could learn how to do that, I didn't know how to hold an ice axe. I didn't know how to wear crampons. I didn't know how to climb mountains, but I learned. I can learn this too.
Yeah.
It's a completely different skill set, but I can learn it and at least get on the path. And there's great happiness that comes from just being on the path.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you always hear the saying, it's about the journey, right? Not the destination. And, it's true, right? You're just talking about being on the path. And kind of what you said too, like, there's no timeline, but you're committed to the path.
Yeah.
And you're just going to stay on it.
The scary parts are when the path ends, you got to get on a new one. It's like when you're between the walk and the climb. After the climb, what are you doing next? Those are actually the scariest parts.
Right.
Once you make the commitment, you're on the path. It's hard still, but there's a simplicity to it. It's like, yeah, I know I'm going that way.
Yeah.
I'm going that way.
Mm-hmm. So, you realized you needed intimacy. You realized you needed these other areas of life, spiritual. The guy that connected us, Steve Weatherford. I mean, obviously he's a really strong Christian, and him and I are good friends. And I've seen you posting more about faith.
Yeah. Well, faith was a big part of this journey because I had to learn, in that time that life was happening for me, not to me. There was something at play that was bigger than me. And that I really had to learn that my suffering had a reason. And I would say that's really where my faith was crystallized. Going, hey, whenever I have hardship, and I have hardship all the time, challenges all the time, if I can ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because God or life or love, I heard a pastor once, he said, life or God, whatever word you want to use. Life and God are the same thing, or love are the same. I love that frame. Life, God, or love is trying to teach me something. It's my job to get the teaching. If I don't listen, he's going to nudge me a little harder. I'm going to get the lesson again, but because I didn't listen, he's going to tap my shoulder a little stronger this time. If I don't listen again, I'm going to get more pain. And just adding that faith to my life, these events, this is the best part of my life so far. The last 2 years since then, it's like incredible.
So where do you think things go from here now, knowing that you've been working on the things that you knew were weak in your life, and you now have more experiences to draw from than ever, more knowledge, all these things, and I guess even a greater understanding of who you are. What do you do with it now? Because I think a key has been you're just a doer. You just take action. It's like you get an idea. All right, I don't need to read about it. I don't need to go listen to podcasts. Like, it's time to just go do it. So what are you doing right now?
Yeah, give it away. Once you love is an interesting thing, right? Wisdom's the same way. It's not those two things aren't like money. If I have $100 and I give you 10, now you have $10, I have 90. Love doesn't work that way. If I have love, I give you love. You have love now, I have more. Wisdom's the same way, right? So the more faith I have and the more I discover about myself, the more I have to give. My life is about giving at the end of the day. I'm here to unlock the magic potential in myself and others. That's why we're speaking today.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed. I've gotten some wild life experiences. I've gotten to learn from a lot of amazing teachers. And I've made a lot of mistakes. And so I'm just here to share what I got. When I was on Everest, we didn't talk a lot about this, but at Camp 2, there was an avalanche. And it ripped open our tent, and I was sure that my life was over. And magically, it just kind of stopped. And what happened was the avalanche actually didn't hit us. It was an air blast, because when avalanche moves, it displaces a massive amount of air. So it was this air explosion, because you imagine, and then the air went bam, and it hit us. And luckily, we were far enough away that we didn't die. I remember thinking, I have so much more music inside me. Literal music, of course. There's more, but figurative music as well. There's just more to share. And so my life is about sharing, and at the end of the day, being an instrument of God, letting God use me to help others on their path of life. Yeah.
No, I love that. So with your career to this point, I mean, and everything that you're now on the journey, like you're doing more podcasts now. It seems like you were just speaking at Gary V's event, so you're doing some public speaking now. To me anyways, it looks like you're kind of like diving into this whole new realm of like, I don't know the best way to say it, but like you've been doing self-development. Now you're teaching self-development.
Yeah. That, I would say that's accurate.
Yeah.
I'm a student of life, and the last chapter, like decade, I was studying myself in life, and I'm still a student of life. I will die a student of life. But now I'm understanding I'm also a teacher of life. That these in some ways, these journeys aren't really over until I share them. Otherwise, they were just for me. And it's it's selfish, If I learned so gosh darn much on Mount Everest, it's like it would just be selfish to not share what I learned. And I'm not saying I have all the answers of life.
Yeah.
Far from it. But I found some answers for my life.
Right.
And if if someone's going through their life and they want to compare notes, and oh man, that might help me. That concept or that distinction, I want that to be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there was anything different you picked up from the Mount Everest experience versus walking?
Oh yeah, completely different. Because when I finished the walk, it was like, what's next? I said, I don't want to go back. So I'm gonna do the next thing. I gave myself another physical goal that was even harder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Everest, death loomed so close the entire time. It was, all right, share what you learn. It was, yeah, what I just shared, there's more music inside me. So I should go share my gifts. I've kind of discovered if I was trying to figure out how tough I was or develop that, the bar mitzvah part, it's like, check. We could go to an even more dangerous mountain. It's like, what are you really going to learn? You might just actually die. And like, what's the glory in that?
Yeah.
You die doing. You and I could make a list of things worth dying for. And I presume if we went and took 5 minutes, we compared our lists after, none of them would have anything about ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like the reason you would die is for your family, your mother, your wife, I didn't want to die exploring my own toughness.
It's selfish.
And that's what I was doing.
Right.
Right. So I pushed it as far as I was going to push it. I still need to exercise that tough muscle, but I do it in different ways that don't put my life on the line. Like I ran an ultra marathon 2 weeks ago.
Whoa.
Steve was there.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And it's like, yeah, you fail at that, you're still alive. You can try again. But some of these more dangerous and you can't try again.
I interviewed a guy, his name's the Iron Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
He ran 50, what are they, triathlons in 50
Why
days.
Iron Man if he's the Iron Cowboy? Was it Iron Man?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ironmans. That's right. So he ran 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. So kind of similar to yours of just going all across the country. What is it? It's like a marathon. It's like 3 miles swimming and like 100 miles biking for 50 days straight. And then he actually had a similar thing to you. When he finished that, he still felt somewhat like, dang, like I got to do something else. So he did 100 in the same spot in 100 days straight.
Yeah, man. It's wild, dude.
Sometimes I think, and you kind of like came to this conclusion, so it's not like it was all for nothing. So I don't want it to sound like that, but it's like sometimes I think we do things to distract ourselves. Whether they be hard things or fun things or whatever, right? Like I see guys who, like I love to golf, and you got guys who like they're successful in life, and then they're like, yeah, I'm just going to golf every day. I'm retired and I'm going to go do that. And it's kind of like a distraction because they just don't really know what to do with their lives. Like they've worked their whole life, and now that that's over, they just don't really know how to fill the time. And I was even talking to someone else about this yesterday about his wife, and his wife, she's a stay-at-home mom, but like she just like cleans nonstop, like an abnormal amount. And I'm like, wait, so you're like picking up the leaves every day? Like I think that's a bit extreme, like to clean that much all day, every day.
Yeah.
Hours and hours. It's like, and you got a cleaner too. And it's like, you kind of do things to just pass the time and distract ourselves. And I think porn is that way. I think,
absolutely.
Like I think a lot of people are just so bored that they'll spend hours scrolling on social media, not sure what to do with their life. And I don't know. I think it's kind of a form of just getting away from being alone and really understanding who you are and what you're supposed to do. Like nobody wants to ask themselves the hard questions.
Yeah. And it's hard. We were just at a conference with the spiritual teachers from India, and they taught there's only two states. You're either in a beautiful state or you're in a suffering state.
Mm.
Now, there's all different subtypes of beautiful state, right? You can have joy, you can have laughter, you could have peace, serenity, but they're all beautiful states. And conversely, or simultaneously, there's a lot of different types of suffering states, right? You could have depression, you could have boredom, you could have resentment, you could have cynicism, you could have anger, sadness, guilt, but they're all suffering states. And what they teach is when you're in a suffering state, to do nothing. Can you be aware of your state?
Exactly.
And they teach, we could do it right now. You go take 3 breaths. And as you're taking the breaths, you ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Am I in a suffering state or am I in a beautiful state? And if I'm in a suffering state, can I name it? How am I feeling? Am I anxious? Am I scared? Am I angry? And does the mind associate the future with that state or the past? And we identify it and we just let it be. And if we can develop this capacity to be with ourselves when we're in pain, and we don't have to cover it up with this or with this or with this, right? Then we can have a life where we're not dumping our suffering on others, right? And so that's it, man. If you can use your suffering, you can be with it. And if you can find some meaning in it, turn it into good. Like Jason and I were talking about yesterday, he was having a hard day and he goes, I'm going to do something good for someone. I'm going to use my suffering as an excuse to be nice. And he bought a Whoop for someone, you know, that was struggling with their health. It was incredible. And if we can just be present and enjoy the beautiful states, then we have a beautiful life. Nobody's in beautiful state all the time. We can be there more of the time.
Yeah. It's just acknowledging and seeing where you're at. Because most just don't even know.
Yeah. And then they're picking up leaves, you know, in the backyard. Dude, like, what am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. I know what.
But we all have our version of that, dude, right?
Yeah.
The other day, I'll be vulnerable. The other day I was having an emotional day and I got home and it was 8 or 9. I go to bed at 8:30, dude. I'm up at 5:30, right? And I never eat before bed because I sleep way better. And I got home and I was emotional. I just started eating, dude. Because it was like when you eat, what happens? Everything slows down, the blood rushes to your stomach. You numb yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever, like, you usually don't have strong emotions right after you eat. In fact, one time I was doing a intervention for a friend that had a drug problem. And the interventionist, who's also a friend, he said, don't eat before. I said, why? He goes, because I want you to feel your emotions when we're in there. So I'm in there numbing like food is a drug, right? I'm there numbing my emotions. This is 4 days ago, dude. This isn't like, right? I'm like, and then I go to sleep and I like sleep like, you know, and then like, you know, and it's like making myself feel worse, you know? And if in that moment I could have done the practice we just did, slow down, then I would have moved to a beautiful state faster. I would have got a good night's sleep. I could just be present, you know, without doing damage to my body, right? So when we're not conscious, we can hurt ourselves or others.
Yeah. I think I saw you saying you recently, well, not recently, but at some point, you know, you got off drugs and the party lifestyle and stuff like that. When did that happen?
I stopped drinking, I think it was 2012.
Oh, wow. That was a
Yep.
long time ago.
And I stopped smoking weed even before that.
Mm.
I still use psychedelics occasionally, to this day, and in moderate doses, and that's been a good thing in my life. So I don't consider that like recreational drug use, but something that brings me closer to God, and sometimes just like zooms me out of my head trips. If I'm stuck on a thing, wow, I'm more forgiving. I can see things a different way. So I'm not sober from those, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stopped drinking a lot. These things that made me less conscious, made me black out or forget where I was or feel less.
Yeah.
I didn't want
Wow.
in my life. Still don't.
How hard was that to stay away from being in the industry?
I think it's hard for anybody, right? Because if you're drinking a lot or partying a lot, and I wasn't partying that much, but you're surrounded by people that do, and
You're in Hollywood.
you're in Hollywood, and I was young.
Yeah.
I stopped drinking. Gosh, I don't want to do math right now. I was 24, right? 2012 from 88 or 26.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most 26-year-olds are having fun in a different way. And I started my spiritual practice then, and I wasn't interested in those things. So I was very lonely at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was always a little bit ahead of my age in some ways, right? Not in the intimacy ways. I was a little behind my age. But in finances, I had money at 22. My friends didn't. I had, stopped drinking. My friends, I think most of them don't drink now, but I was a little early. So it was lonely at the beginning.
Mm. So, as we wrap up here, what do you think is the one thing you'd want to leave everyone who's listening with?
Just keep going. Just keep going. I especially want to talk to anyone going through a challenge right now. If you're listening to this, don't judge yourself too early. Your life may turn out like mine, where it's beyond even your dreams right now. And you just got to stay in the fight. You got to stay in the game. You got to keep going.
Mm.
And you're the author of your life. You're telling your life story with your decisions, with your emotions, with how you communicate to loved ones. And at the end of the day, this life ends.
Yeah.
So today, the most powerful decision, more than any business being successful or accomplishing some goal, it's give your love to the people you love. Don't wait to do it. Enjoy all your moments today. Tomorrow's not promised. And just keep going.
Mm. And I think to add to that too, just go after your version of success, not anyone else's.
That's right, man.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what I see like with you now is people be like, well, dude, that, when he was 22, that would have been the successful time, having hits and bangers and Grammy. And then now you're like, no, this is actually way more successful right now in this moment.
Way more.
And it's redefining, not having anyone else tell you what successful is.
That's right.
Dope. Well, guys, go check out Mike's new song. Go check it out. Spotify. Beautiful Day.
That's right.
That's right. So go check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.